I'm Llama Gucci from Ashijima's farm and you're watching Disney Channel. Tsukishima's pod. Tsukishima K had never been the type to form friendships, much less a relationship. While others perceived his antagonistic demeanor as just something he identified strongly with, the truth couldn't be any farther from that. In reality, Tsukishima K was a masked self-tormenting agonist whose perception of himself was more hostile than that of a raging tempest. In his eyes, it was just a coping mechanism, a wall he'd built up to prevent himself from ever feeling the light, from rejection, from suffering the same fate as his brother did. So he continued his days blowing out his and everyone else's candles to make sure neither one shined bright. That was until he met the brightest one of them yet. Hinata Shoyo was possibly the single worst person for Tsukishima. Passionate, loud, short, overzealous, confident, hard-working and open, a stark contrast to him. And Tsukishima wasn't one to believe in opposites attract. So, why was he curled up in his bed with his phone in his hand and a huge smile plastered on his face, rereading his messages with the hot-headed, brown-eyed raven that he seemingly should have been hating? 11:35 p.m. Tsukishima? Hinata? Is something wrong? No, I just wanted to say that even though I don't have anything to compare our first date to, it was definitely the best. Even though he'd read that about 50 times, his heart still raced like riding a bike down a slope. I'm glad. I know it wasn't ideal considering that I took you to a museum, but I promise I'll make the next one count. Next one? Are you saying there'll be a next one? If you're interested in it. Of course I am, silly. Good. Wait, did you just imply that you've never been on a date before? Yeah. Unbelievable. Or Tsukishima, you flatter me too much. No, I mean it's unbelievable that I took you to a damn museum for your first ever date. PFFT, you don't give yourself enough credit, trust me, I had so much fun. I would hope so. SHH, I did. Wait, what about you? What about me? Have you been on a date before? Yeah. Wait, really? Yes, it was with a girl though. Oh, did you like dating her? If I liked it, would I be taking you on a date? Oh yeah, right. It was this stupid thing that happened in middle school. She basically confessed to me and I couldn't turn her down without feeling like too much of an asshole. IDK, what's more unbelievable, a girl confessing to you or you being considerate to her feelings? Oh, shut up. What Hinata had said wasn't even that funny, but it sure did bring out a laugh from him, and he wasn't sure why. Turns out it was even worse of me to reject her 3 months later. Tsukishima, what the hell? Yeah. You were so dumb, OMG. That poor girl. You know, being scolded by you has made me realize that I must have been a bigger idiot than I thought. You're so mean. I'm kidding. Wait. Question mark. Did you just send a laughing emoji? My finger must have slipped. Hahaha, this moment is going down in history books. I hate it here. No, you love it here. Sure. Tsukishima had almost wanted to yell at him to stop being so damn cute at that moment, but he decided against it since it was too out of character for him. Is it bad? Is what bad? Is it bad that right when I felt like I needed some more extra seasoning in my life, you came in with the right amount of salt? Is that supposed to be a pickup line? According to the pickup lines net. I'm going to bed. Not even a heart. SMH. Go to bed, twerk. Tsukishima. What? You said you wanted a heart. Yeah, but that was not romantic at all. You want me to be even more romantic than that? I would hardly call that romantic. I'm scared to even know what your idea of romance is. My idea of romance is to hug you, kiss you, be with you 24/7. For a moment there, Tsukishima's brain had short-circuited. Even rereading them now had his skin tingling in what could only be described as excitement. Tell me why you sound like a leech. Tsukishima. I'm going to bed, bye. Perhaps I was a bit too mean. You think? I'm sorry. Apology not accepted. How do I make it up to you? Eyes. Fine. Good night, Hinata. Yay. Good night, Tsukishima. Tsukishima shut off his phone and placed it on the nightstand next to his bed before heaving an euphoric sigh. With his left hand over his head, he stared at the emptiness of the dark room, the huge smile never leaving his face. Is this what it's like to date Hinata Shoyo? If so, then how the hell did I get so lucky?
Oh, yeah.
When it came to academics, Tsukishima K was a pro. But when it came to things other than that, like communication, friendships, having common decency, sometimes, and romance, he was as lost as a needle in a haystack. Yet the quick-witted simpleton found himself standing outside of Hinata's house on Monday morning, thinking of a million ways to ask him if he wanted to walk to school together. Why is it so much easier to talk to him through text? As Tsukishima walked up to his doorstep, he felt the pounding in his chest rising by the second. Well, here goes nothing. Sighing, he rang Hinata's doorbell and waited while picking on the straps of his backpack. Is this too weird? Maybe it was too early for this. Why am I even here? Tsukishima turned around and started towards the gate. I should Tsukishima? He heard a voice call out from behind him as he stopped in his tracks. Shit, it's too late. Tsukishima turned back around and looked at the neatly dressed boy in front of him. He really looks good in that uniform. Hey. What are you doing here? I was on my way to school and wanted to see if you wanted to walk with me. It's fine if you don't, I would love to. Hinata's eyes beamed as a smile larger than life had found its way onto his face. Tsukishima gulped as he stared down at him. It's too early for this. Too early for him to see his power over me. Great. I'll wait here. Tsukishima averted his gaze to the pavement. Okay. I'll be right back. Just have to grab my bag and say bye to Natsu. He nodded as he watched Hinata run up to his house. When Hinata returned, he handed over a KitKat to him. Here, this is for you. Oh, thanks. They had been walking in silence for the past 5 minutes, neither of them knowing what to say. Though, it wasn't particularly an awkward silence. They wondered if this would continue until they'd reached school, as each of them unwrapped the KitKat bars in their hands. The silence most likely would have continued further had Tsukishima not seen the monstrosity that was happening right in front of his very own eyes. Hinata, what the hell are you doing? What? I'm eating KitKat. That is not how you eat a damn KitKat. Tsukishima grimaced as he stared at him in utter shock. Huh? What kind of sane person just bites into a KitKat bar? I do. How would you even eat a KitKat bar? Break it into sticks and eat them one by one? Yes. I'm sorry, but my ass is too lazy for that. At this point, Tsukishima was convinced that he'd been dating a monster. There was no other explanation. I cannot believe you. Tsukishima, it's not a crime to just bite into it. In fact, it's more satisfying that way. Hinata whined as he wiped his hands on a tissue. Have I mentioned that I hate it here already? Yes, about 50 times. Good. Make it 51. Tsukishima. Hinata pouted at him, but Tsukishima could only shake his head. No. HMPH. Hinata huffed as he edged his hand towards his until he could feel his fingertips brush against Tsukishima's hand. Tsukishima wasn't one for showing affection, any form of it, in public, but when he looked down at the innocent pouting boy beside him, his heart couldn't help but melt. He internally rolled his eyes as he grabbed the other's hand in his, lacing their fingers together and feeling the heat of his palm press against his own. Tsukishima had held so many hands in his life: his mother's, father's, brother's, Tadashi's, even the insignificant girl he had pretended to like. Yet for some reason he couldn't find words to describe the emotions he felt with the way his large calloused hand felt against the other small warm one. They were sun and moon, complete opposites, but in that moment they aligned like the stars, and suddenly everything felt right as long as he could see Hinata's smile. Kajima's POV. To say that Kajima Tobio absolutely sucked at communication would be an understatement. Compliments and praises left his mouth in forms of stutters and rebukes. His smile radiated an aura of death and terrified people like they were stepping into an eternal darkness. But Kajima couldn't give a flying rat about what people thought about him. He'd gotten used to being hated on, misunderstood, perceived in the wrong light. King, tyrant, dictator, he'd gotten used to all of them. All those snarky whispers and side glances did was push him closer to shutting him out from the rest of the world. And he'd gotten used to being alone, to feeling lonely. In fact, he was sure that he was going to die friendless until a certain ball of sunshine stumbled into his life, taking him on a whirlwind of surprises. Hinata Shoyo believed in him like no other. Even when they had such animosity between them, he trusted him with his eyes closed. Quite literally. He was his first worthy partner, first person to understand him, first person to bring out his true potential, the first person to push him further. He was his first friend. For a boy so clueless of feelings and other non-volleyball related stuff, Kagehina was sure what he felt for Hinata was something beyond just gratitude and appreciation. For the first time in his life he finally realized what it meant to be in love with someone, with something other than volleyball. And maybe that's why Kagehina found himself sulking in the corner of the club room, dreading the arrival of the new couple. Kagehina? Yes, Captain? Are you okay? Daichi asked, referring to the other's puffed up eyes. Yes. Are you sure? Because no offense, but you don't look so good. I'm fine, Captain. Don't worry. Kagehina, I've watched you since you first arrived here, and the only time you've looked this devastated was when we lost to Aoba Jose. I know we're not the closest, but if there's anything on your mind that you want to talk about, I'm here for you. Kagehina didn't know what to say. He'd never had anyone offer to listen to him. Not once in his life had he tried to open up about his feelings that weren't volleyball related. Should he really try now? You ever longed for something, and when it finally seemed like it might become yours, it turned out to be just a sick trick that your mind played on you? Upon hearing that, the captain's eyes softened and he couldn't help but sympathize for the heartbroken setter in front of him. I can't say that I have, but I can confirm that I know someone else who has. Daichi said as a certain silver-haired setter popped in his head, remembering the way Daichi had almost lost him because of his stupid indecisiveness and his cowardice. Really? The setter looked up at him, his eyes widened slightly. Yes, but it was my fault for causing them such pain. Oh. Kagehina, I can never say that I'll know exactly how you feel, but I can guarantee that things will get better. I know you're hurting right now and you have every right to be, but this is just pushing you to be one step closer to finding the right person. It's just I thought what we had was special. Kagehina bit the inside of his cheek as he felt tears threatening to well up. You are special to him, Kay. Not the kind that I want to be. Kagehina interjected quickly. Why did they have to have that stupid contest anyway? I might have had a better chance at winning with just my confession. He yelled, not caring about who he was talking to and what the implications of his actions would be. He just didn't care anymore. I know, Kagehina. But honestly, I don't even think it was just the contest. Yes, it was. Everyone knows how much I suck at those things, but regardless, I came in second. That has to hold for something, right? That's fair. But I don't think Hinata is that shallow. And besides, would you rather he date you because you won a silly contest? Kagehina's fists curled as he glared at the ground, his face turning red. He knew the captain was right, but his heart refused to give in to reality. Why did it have to hurt so much? Stupid fucking heart. Everything will be okay, Kagehina. Trust me, you're going to be happy one day, and this'll just be another one of your passing memories. Thank you for your help, Daichi-san, but I'm still not convinced. Kagehina sighed as he headed to the gym door. It's just unfair. Daichi stood there with a frown on his face as he watched the heartbroken boy slam the door behind him. Kagehina Tobio had never been in love before, but all he knew was that he absolutely never wanted to feel these stupid feelings again. Love is overrated.
Oh, yeah.
Hinata's pod. Not that he was counting or anything, but it had been approximately 5 days and 14 hours since Hinata and Tsukihina had begun dating. Their days were filled with a lot of hand-holding, teasings, walking together to school, having lunch on the rooftop that would sometimes end with Tsukihina taking a short nap on the smaller boy's lap, studying, to Hinata's demise, movie nights, and even practicing blocking, though Hinata had to literally beg for it. Even though Tsukihina would refuse to show affection in public or deny the fact that he liked receiving sloppy kisses on the cheek, he made sure to make his tangerine aware of his feelings every once in a while. Every day seemed like a bliss. But there was still something that nagged Hinata, something that made him frustrated and worried, something that caused him to finally snap and put an end to this nonsense. It was the middle of practice and Hinata found himself literally dragging the taller player to the place where they'd always meet before practice, the grassy patch near the vending machine. Once they'd arrived, he crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow at the rattled boy in front of him. Kagehina, what in the world is going on with you? If this is about me flubbing a few sets, I already told you I'd fix it. This isn't about a few sets. You've missed every single one. And you rarely even miss one. Just not in a good headspace right now. What is it? You know you can talk to me about anything, right? It's nothing, don't worry about it. I'll be bullshit. Kageyama's eyes widened. Hinata never cussed, not unless he was pissed. I'd like to think that after a year of being your friend I know you enough to know when something's wrong. You're never this quiet. And besides, Hinata looked down at the ground and fiddled with his fingers. You've been ignoring me. Why? I haven't been ignoring you. Yes, you have. Even when I invited you over to practice spikes with me, you flat out refused. Kageyama paused, not knowing what to say. You wouldn't understand. Try me. It's no use, trust me. In fact, it'll only make things worse. This only made Hinata fume as he felt his stomach churn. Why is he being so stubborn? How can you say that? I'm your best friend and that has to hold for something, shouldn't it? That's exactly why I can't tell you. Kageyama yelled. His sudden outburst almost made Hinata jump. It might ruin our friendship. He muttered under his breath. Aren't you doing just that by ignoring me? Kageyama knew he was right, but he still couldn't tell him. It was way too embarrassing for him. So, this is about me? Kageyama said nothing as he looked down. Is this about your confession? Hinata asked cautiously, not wanting to pour gasoline in fuel. Kageyama nodded slowly, keeping his eyes at the weird-shaped rock on the ground. Then we have some things to talk about, don't we? We don't have to. Yes we do. Kageyama squinted his eyes at the ground and let out an exasperated sigh. Yeah, we do. Tsukishima's pod. What's taking them so long? It had been 15 minutes since Hinata had practically dragged out Kageyama. Normally no one would care about whatever those dimwits did, but their practice match against Date Tech was coming up and neither had been able to perfect a single quick attack. This worried the whole team, especially the captain and even Tsukishima. Kageyama's been acting really weird today. Tanaka declared, like he had made some kind of huge discovery. King's always acting weird. Tsukishima scoffed, secretly hoping it might elevate some of the tension in the room. Yeah, but today he's been acting weird. Tsuki, do you know anything about this? No idea. Oh no, what if it's the fight incident all over again? Yachi, I'm sure it's nothing like that. I sure hope so, Kyoko-san. I'll go look for them. Tsukishima sighed and everyone nodded their heads in agreement. When Tsukishima stepped out of the volleyball gym, he felt a gust of wind breeze through him. It was getting cold. Did the twerp bring his jacket with him? He didn't really know where they were, but he figured the only place they'd stray away to would be near the vending machine, since he had caught them practicing receives over there a couple of times. As he got closer, he started to hear faint noises in the background, so he inched closer. He was about to call out to them when he heard something that stopped him in his tracks. You know that I do love and care about you, right? Tsukishima couldn't help but watch from behind a wall at the situation at hand. I know. I feel the same for you too, regardless of what happened. Good. When Tsukishima turned his head to take a peek at them, he found Hinata's arms wrapped around the others and they held onto each other's embrace for a few moments. He honestly didn't think much about it until he had heard the next thing that came out of Hinata's mouth. I'm sorry, Kageyama, I truly am. It's fine, Boke. Stop apologizing. But you'll still be special to me no matter what, and I hope that I'll be the same for you. Always. Tsukishima leaned his back against the wall as he closed his eyes shut. His heart was racing and suddenly a wave of anxiousness washed over him as he stood there not knowing what to do. I know I would never hurt Hinata intentionally, but why the hell do I feel so guilty? Though the thumping in heart continued to grow worse, he walked up to them after remembering the reason why he'd come there. Upon seeing Tsukishima, Hinata immediately pulled away from Kageyama and stared at him wide-eyed like a deer caught in the headlights. Tsukishima? Coach was asking for you too. Oh. Yeah. By the way, this isn't what it Lou. I know. Tsukishima quickly interjected as he went on ahead, leaving behind a very worried Hinata and a slightly confused Kageyama. When they returned back to the gym, everything seemed normal all of a sudden, and Kageyama was back to being the genius setter that Tsukishima despised. But no one could deny that the tension had once again seeped through the room as the team kept giving side glances to one another, eyeing Tsukishima and Hinata throughout the course of practice. Neither of them spoke a word to each other, a stark contrast to how they were that morning and the other previous mornings. Hinata wanted to, but he didn't know what to say really, and Tsukishima wanted to, but the guilt he was facing was slowly eating him up inside. After everyone had left, it was just the two of them in the gym. They had agreed to lock up, though they didn't know how things were going to play out for them. Shortly after putting the basket of balls back into the storage room, Hinata had walked over to the locker room. Tsukishima was nervous to follow behind, but he knew that they needed to talk and sort out whatever was going on between them. Tsukishima watched as Hinata pulled his shirt over his head and grabbed his change of clothes. He didn't understand how someone can look so good, so gorgeous, it was almost too surreal. While Hinata was blessed with natural beauty, the thing that Tsukishima was drawn to the most was his smile. A smile that was as beautiful as a sunset at horizon. "Hey, can we talk?" "Oh, so you're finally talking to me?" Hinata turned to him with his hands on his hips. "You weren't talking to me either." "Shut up." Hinata frowned at him and Tsukishima almost let out a laugh. "So can we talk?" "Sure." There was a moment of silence between them before Tsukishima took a deep breath and looked at him. "I wanted to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Promise to be honest with me." "I promise." "Do you regret being with me?" That question made Hinata's eyes widen, feeling his heart lurch. What? "The reason why I wasn't talking to you was because I couldn't stop the guilt I was feeling. I'm so lost." "What guilt?" "Why? It's just I sorta overheard you and Kagehina talking and I wondered if you wanted to be with him. Like, you know, if I should back off or something." Though Tsukishima tried to keep his cool on the outside, he felt like he was bleeding on the inside. He really didn't want to let his sunshine go. "Tsukishima. Yeah. Are you stupid?" What? "I'm asking, are you stupid?" "No, but that could have changed since I've been hanging out with you a lot." "Shut up." Hinata glared at him. "Kidding. I don't know what you heard, but I think this has something to do with the hug you saw us having." "Right. It's not about the hug. Then? You just sounded so sad comforting him. Almost like you wanted to be with him but couldn't. And it just made me feel guilty. Honestly, if you want to be with him, I won't stop you. I may not show it often, but I do care about your happiness, and if he's happiness, then I'll accept that. At least I'll learn to." For the first time in his life, Tsukishima had the strong urge to cry. He couldn't handle the pain. It had only been 5 days, less than a week. It shouldn't hurt this bad. 5 divine days. "Tsukishima, you might be cold to others, but you're honestly, so honestly, the kindest person I've ever met." Hinata held his gaze at the distressed boy in front of him. "I promise that you have nothing to worry about. I have eyes on no one else but you. It's just I'm constantly afraid when it comes to you." "Afraid of what?" "What if I completely fuck it up one day and you decide you've had enough?" There was complete silence in the room. It was a mystery how Tsukishima's tone remained so composed with how red his face was, and even through his glasses Hinata could see how his eyes looked like they were burning. "When that day comes, I promise I'd rather talk it out with you than ever leave you. And I mean ever." "Really?" "Yes. And besides, when I was comforting Kagehina, I didn't exactly know how he felt, but the thought of not being with you popped up in my head, and suddenly Tsukishima heard Hinata's voice break and he found himself walking closer to him. "Hinata?" Tsukishima breathed out. "Wait, is he?" "No, please don't. Please don't cry. I felt like I'd lost the most important thing in my life. That made me so sad, heartbroken even." A tear slipped from his eyes and he grabbed onto Tsukishima's hand. "Shit." Tsukishima muttered under his breath as he placed a hand under Hinata's chin, making him look up at him. He wiped the tear away with his thumb as he stared at him with sadness in his eyes. "I don't want anyone but you, Tsukishima." "Me neither." "Good. Now, give your boyfriend a hug." Hinata freed his hand from Tsukishima's and opened his arms. "Boyfriend?" Tsukishima's breath caught in his throat with those words. He wasn't sure if the pounding in his heart was from fear or excitement hearing the words come out of Hinata's mouth. "Yes, boyfriend." Tsukishima softly chuckled before pulling him close to his chest, wrapping his arms around his small frame. Hinata smiled against his back, holding onto him tightly. It's only been a few days and we're already so dramatic. I know. But I wouldn't have this any other way. Me neither. Tsukishima smiled. He really wouldn't. He loved every fight, every taunt, every moment with Hinata, and he could only hope that this fleeting euphoria never came to an end. By the way. Hinata pulled his head away a bit, looking up at the shimmering golden brown eyes in front of him. Did I ever tell you that I liked you back? No. Tsukishima thought about it. He hadn't. Not that he minded though. Oh well, I like you. A lot. Hearing that made Tsukishima crack out a bigger grin that he wanted to. In fact, he didn't know he needed to hear that until now. Tsukishima placed a hand on Hinata's cheek, looking into those bewitching eyes of his. Can I kiss you? I don't know, can you? Tsukishima wasted no time pressing his lips against Hinata's, moving his hands down to his waist. Hinata wrapped his arms around his neck, pulling him even closer, and kissed him back deeply. The flutter in Hinata's stomach intensified as Tsukishima's grip tightened around his waist and he found himself pushed up against the wall. With their chests pressed against each other, Tsukishima flicked his tongue swiftly over the other's bottom lip and gently tugged on it, making Hinata whimper. He fucking loved that sound. Hinata's heart pounded in his chest as his knees got weaker. He could only focus on the heat rising from his stomach to his chest as their mouths moved fervently against each other. Hinata moaned softly, tangling his fingers through the other's tousled hair. Hinata hated how cold he felt when Tsukishima pulled away from him and stared at him with wide eyes. There was a brief silence before Tsukishima spoke with a wavering voice. What did you just say? Oh crap, I'm so sorry. ID. Say that again. Hearing his name in Hinata's mouth was music to his ears. He didn't think there was anything greater than kissing Hinata, but fuck. The way his name rolled out his lips sent chills all over his body. Fuck. Shoyo. Hinata gasped as Tsukishima pulled him in, claiming his mouth again hungrily, and kissed him passionately, resting one hand against his jaw. Hinata's knees gave in as he parted his mouth, slightly gripping onto Tsukishima's shirt. This definitely must have been what heaven felt like. Tanaka bro, I'm telling you, a threesome with Thanos and Hulk would be the single most epic thing in the world. Tsukishima's hands stopped as he heard an annoying voice loom from behind the locker room's door. Their eyes shot open as they looked at each other, fear apparent in their gaze. Fuck. Just go grab your phone, so we can get out of here. The door opened swiftly before they could even pull away in time. With his hands encircled around the shorter boy whose body was pressed against the wall, it was certainly not a good look for them. Holy fuck. They jumped apart from each other, wiping their mouth with their arms. No. No. No, their hearts thumped loudly as a dust of red shaded on their cheeks. In front of them were two completely dumbfounded boys who certainly didn't expect to find their cowheis making out in the back of the locker room. Things only got worse when the senpais glanced at each other and their lips had distorted into a smirk. Well. What do we have here? Tsukishima almost debated on jumping out the window but decided against it, knowing the other would definitely jump after him. I'll meet you on the other side, Daichi.